now that we have a three-layered structure for the objects, we got student management system, we got students, we got course record. Let's now see how the aliasing effects and the dot notation will play together. It's actually very interesting to see. Okay, so now remember from the previous video, we have developed a tester over here with 5 course objects, course record objects, 2 student objects, and also 1 student management system objects, and they're connected like this. Okay, so now I would like to review very quickly about the aliasing effects. Remember what the aliasing effect is? Let me just see the definition which I mentioned previously. So aliasing simply means an object's address being stored in multiple places of variables. Alternatively, you can think about it as more than one variables pointing to the same objects. Before, for example, we got we got CR1, for example, CR1 over here is pointing to, let me just use a different color here. So CR1 is pointing to this course record objects. And what about S.courses, which refers to this array at position 0, in which case it also refers to the same course record objects, right? So that's the aliasing. Now we added another extra layer of structure, which is student management system. The aliasing effect is even more the case. Let's see how that's going to happen. Okay, so now this is a clean diagram over here. So now I have a question for you. Okay, so now let me just identify one of the objects at the bottom level. Let me use, what about over here? What about I use yellow? Okay, now I want you to think about how many possible ways are there for us to refer to this particular course record objects, okay? Or how many variables, how many expressions are storing the address of this course record objects, okay? The question is, how many expressions, and here when I say expressions, that means expression you can use the dot notation to construct the expressions. Store the address of these objects. So that's a question for you. Okay, think about it. Okay, I can give you hints. The easiest way, the first one I can tell you is this. I'm going to use a different color to show you. The first one is, I can simply say CR2, because CR2 is pointing to here. Okay, that's the first one. CR2. So CR2 is storing the address of this object over here. Can you tell me another one? Another one is what we said from the previous video. Another one would be, let's try that. Let me use blue over here. Another one is S1 dot courses at position 1. Right? That's what we have. And that's also referring to the same objects, which means it's storing the same address. Okay, that's the second one. Okay, so let me use. So over here you can say S1 dot courses at position 1. Okay, that's another one. Can you tell me any other one? Okay, the third one is going to be more interesting to construct, and why don't we see that diagrammatically to see which one it should be. Okay, let me use a different color over here. You can see. Oh, before I get there, you can think about what these two expressions here really means. Okay, let me just say that. So this one simply means there is a course record object called CRT2, which refer to this course objects, and also there is a student called S1. The second course the student is registered is referring to this course objects. Okay, so now in English we can say that the same course record objects is referred to by the following interpretation. We say that in the student management system, the very first students who's registered for who's actually added in this student, the very first student who is added in this system here has its second course, and that second course is referring to the same course that we're talking about. Okay, so now how do we see that? Okay, so now let me use the highlighter over here. So we can say SMS dot students at position 0, and this is referring to this particular student objects. And for that particular student object, we can say dot courses at position 1, and it's referring to the same objects. Okay, so now let me, before I do that, let me just also indicate 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's see exactly how we can write that. Okay, so now let me use a different color. This one is more interesting. So what we can say is, we can say SN. Okay, let me just use the normal color here. Okay, that's fine. SNS dot students. Okay, and then students, and then at position 0 over here. Okay, I will just mention a subtle point in just a moment. And then over there we can say dot courses at position 1. Okay, they're referring to the same objects. Okay, now I want you to look at two expressions for me. Can you look at S1 and this part of the expression? S1 versus SMS.students0. Are they referring to the same student objects? Are they or are they not? It seems like they are, right? Because if you look at, I don't want to pollute the diagram. Let's think about this. If you look at S1, S1 is referring to this particular student object over here. And when you say SMS.students, which refer to this array here, at position 0, which also refer to this student objects. So they refer to the same object as indeed. So that's why you can see, given that S1, okay, so you can see that, let me just say that. Because S1 and SMS dot students at position 0 point to the same objects. Therefore, you can say S1 dot courses at position 1 and also SMS dot students at position 0 dot courses at position 1. They also point to the same objects. You can see over here, given that this part in the beginning point to the same objects. This one here. Okay, given that these two green parts are pointing to the same objects, so that means, let me just make it a little better. So these two green parts point to the same objects, and also you can see that what's really the ending part over here, courses at 1 and courses at 1. So of course they point to the same object. So you're basically connecting. Well, I'm not sure if this analogy might make sense to you. If I have A plus B, and also versus, let's say B plus, let's say versus C plus B. Okay, I know that B is equal to B itself, which is pretty much like this part is really equivalent to this part over here. And then I know that if I can tell you that A is equal to C, pretty much like I tell you S1 is pointing to the same object as SMS.students at 0, then I would know that that implies these two are actually equal to each other, right? Mathematically speaking. Okay, hopefully you can see the analogy over here. So you can see programming is not just about programming itself, just about coding. You should really understand the logic behind. Okay, so now that's one case of aliasing. So hopefully you see the idea. But of course, there are many occasions like this. I'm just choosing one of them to show you. Okay, so you should really try to review this one very carefully. And I have another question for you. Okay, it's an exercise. Now, you got to tell me how many ways there are for this particular course record objects. That's the question for you. Okay, I'll leave that as an exercise for you. Okay, so now I just want to program this in Java very quickly and then show you. Okay, very quickly. Okay. So now I will say s out test of dot notation and aliasing. Okay, s out. Okay, I'll simply say I'll just you can also refer to the notes. I'm not looking at the note myself. You can also refer back to it as well. Okay, what I would say is I would say s1 and sms dot students at position 0 point to the same object. Also show you on the debugger very quickly at the end. So now over here, I'll put a parenthesis over here. We can say s1 equals. So if you want to compare addresses, you can use equal. Addresses are simply just some binary numbers under the hood. Okay, s1 equals sms dot students at position 0. Okay, that's one thing. Let's now make sure that's really the case. Okay, it's true. Okay, and now given that that's the case, so now it's out. So now we can say that s1 dot courses at position 1 and sms dot students at position 0 dot courses 1 point to the same objects. Okay, let's program over here. S1 dot courses at position 1 equals sms dot students at position 0 dot courses at position 1. You can see the code completion is actually reminding you what you can type along the way. I will leave you with that. Okay. Okay, that's about it. Okay, and then we'll show you the debugging in just a moment. Okay, so now if you execute it, that's what you will see. Okay, it's also true. Okay, so now one more thing. How do I say that something like this? I want to if this is true or not. Okay, very easy to check. Question for you. S1 dot courses at position, let's say 2, and SMS students 1 dot courses 1. Do they point to the same objects? Okay, so I will ask you. S1 dot courses at position 2, and then SMS dot students at position 1 and courses at position 1. Okay, now let's be careful over here. The result should be true or false. Before we say anything, let's see the diagram. S1 dot courses at position 2. What would that be? S1 dot courses at position 2. Let me use maybe this green, light green over here. Okay. S1 dot courses at position 2. S1 dot courses at position 2 should be this object over here. Okay, so I'll write that very quickly. S1 dot courses at position 2. Okay, and what about the second one over here? What about SMS dot students 1? Let's go there first. SMS dot students 1, SMS over here dot students at position 1, which is talking about this student object here, and then go to courses at position 1, and go to the courses at position 1, which is talking about this object over here, right? So now, are these the same objects? Apparently not, right? Okay, so that should be false. Okay, this will be SMS dot students at position 1 dot courses at position 1. Okay, but they are not the same object, so that should be false. Okay, let's execute that. Okay, hopefully you will see the idea how to use the dot notation and also how to use the how to understand the aliasing effects. And of course, that will be false. Okay. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, so in this tutorial video, basically we show you how the aliasing effect and the dot notation can really go side by side. Again, as a really final reminder for you. So whenever in Java you talk about the dot notation, let's say, for example, you say the dot notation. Okay, and then in diagram and the way we visualize what's going on over there, we use an arrow over here, right? That's in principle the case. But in the case where you talk about array, for example, when you say SMS dot, so this is SMS dot over here, dot students over here, but student itself is actually an array. And for array, we don't really say students dot. We don't say that, okay? You don't really say SMS dot students and then dot. No, that's not the way to say that, because you know that students is actually an array. So the way you say that would be SMS dot students and then at position, let's say 1. Okay, once you talk about it, you're not really talking about this particular address over here. And now you know that there's a student, so now you can say, so that's really referring to a student over here. Now if you want to refer to this particular object over here and say, let's say it's courses, you can say dot courses. And then at some position, for example, 1 over here. Okay, so that's actually how you construct a notation. Try to really make sense of it, and you really want to practice writing such code yourself. It's really important. Okay.